can you hear you? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you in good old Basel. Where are you at the moment?
I'm in Salt Lake City.
In Salt Lake City, okay. You come to Basel sometimes? You still remember Basel? We're here on the Kleberg.
I do. Yeah, I'm in Basel every now and then. Not as often as I want to, but it happens. I would say maybe once a year or so.
Okay. Sorry, I have to get my script. I forgot it over there. What, can you see us? Or?
I can see you, but I wonder if you can see me. I see the blue screen behind you, and we always have the blue screen from the other side.
Yes, sorry. Let's see how it does. It was actually disconnected. Yes, we can see you, right?
Here I am.
Okay, very good. So, let me give a little bit of the story. You were the founder back in the crazy 90s. I mean, these were also really crazy years. The dot-com boom, you could say you're kind of a dot-com winner, right? I mean, you did it all. You did the IPO back then, and then you did an amazing sell, right? So you're kind of one of those, let's say, local heroes from Basel that went out in the big software, let's say, Shark Tank, right, and survived. So, or how do you see your story, respectively?
Yeah, no, I definitely. I mean, it's always interesting to look at kind of the retrospective of the journey that we had, and I can assure you that it didn't always feel like we were winning and like it was easy. It was definitely a lot of work and a lot of hustling, and I was able to hear the last two startup pitches, and I have a lot of empathy for the amount of hustling and pivoting and retrying, reshaping your business to be something else. I think we went through quite a bit of those, but yeah, we definitely went public right before the dot-com bubble burst, and on the one end gives you a nice valuation, on the other end you now have a really long stretch of drought in front of you, and then I think in the end, after being public for almost 10 years, being acquired by a large Silicon Valley-based high-tech company was definitely a great sort of exit for the company and a new beginning for all of us who work there and find a new home for ourselves.
Yeah, and the development side still stands in Basel, right? So everybody was thinking, okay, that's it, they're going to go away. Did that help a little bit from your side, that they're still here, or is there some, what's the logic behind that?
Well, I think in general, if you think of from a macro economic sense, it's like Switzerland's a great place for a high-tech company, right? We have a great talent pool. It's very stable, very open for business country. So I think it was the fact that in obviously in our case it was we brought the nucleus, I want to say at this point, of a business to a much larger organization, and the organization was which obviously is Adobe. So Adobe grew our business tremendously, and obviously kept expanding the footprint of software engineering in Switzerland. And I don't think that's necessarily uncommon. If I look at Microsoft or Google or some of the big Silicon Valley-based high-tech companies, a lot of them have research and development facilities in Switzerland, and I think it's definitely a great place to develop high tech. So I think it's totally obvious in hindsight. I don't think there's ever any intention of anybody who acquires a company to just shut down the operations as quickly as possible, right? You want to grow it, you believe in the team, you believe in the technology, you want to make it bigger. So I'm not surprised that we landed where we did. The thing that I was surprised myself is just about my trajectory, and maybe I'm being too honest here. I didn't necessarily think that 13 years after the acquisition, I would still work for the same big company, and I consider myself more of an entrepreneur. And I like the hustle, and Adobe has just been a fantastic employer, not just for me, but I think also to a lot of the people in the engineering ranks altogether. There's still a lot of people who joined Adobe through the acquisition who are still there. So it's definitely been a huge success story, not just for Adobe, but also for our employees.
So if you think about back then, I think we can talk about the 90s, right? When you started, you were still studying at ETH, I think. And if you look at it now, like what is it, 20, 25, 30, almost 30 years later?
Yeah,
what changed? What changed?
30 years, yeah.
30 years, yeah, we're getting older, yeah, sure. So if you think about it, what has changed? Has anything changed, or are there things that's still the same? Or if you look at the tech specifically, or
yeah, I mean, if you look at the journey of high tech, and high tech, I think software grew up to be an amalgamation of high tech, internet, whatever you want. Throw in there anything from mobility, cloud. I mean, the whole machine learning, AI, and Gen AI trajectory is a whole different space. But if you think about that as all high tech, and if someone would have asked me 30 years ago, or even 20 years ago, what is the trajectory of technology? And how important can it become to humanity, if you wish? Like how relevant is technology in all of our daily lives across the board? I think nobody could have imagined that. And it's just like this has been far beyond expectations. And I always say humans have become not a race of humans anymore. We're kind of a race of cyborgs, right? We all run around with our digital extension and tentacles into the internet. And if you think about teenagers and their phones, the last thing they touch in the evening, the first thing they touch in the morning is going to be their phone, and that makes them wake up. It's like other people's coffee back then, but it's really just like we have become almost like the Borg, right? Where we revolve around the internet, we exchange information. High tech has become an integral part of everybody's life. And one way that when we started out, I remember us selling software at the time to large companies, and eventually you go through like who are the largest brands and the biggest companies in the world, and I remember Exxon and companies like that being the largest companies. And if you go to the top 100 brands, it's dominated by high-tech companies at this point. I don't think anyone could have predicted the systemic relevance of technology to the extent that it really happened. So yes, a lot of things changed. I mean, 20 years back, there's no iPhone, there's no cloud, like there's barely any web around. Like if you take all those things away, the human race is not the same place anymore, for sure.
Yes, true. We really tend to forget, right? I mean, I used to write like news articles saying that 20% of Swiss population now uses the internet, right? And 3% of those do even online shopping. I mean, it was like, and we were like, wow, it's really growing, it's happening, right? That was when you guys started Day Software. And in terms of starting a company, do you follow that a lot? Do you see a lot of startups, or also the difference maybe to Switzerland and where you are now? In the US, is there a big difference? Can you tell us something about that? How is this?
Totally. So I'm at heart, I'm an entrepreneur. So I like watching other entrepreneurs. I like being involved in startups to a certain extent. I'm trying to make my day job more of a startup type situation, and I think that all works very well. But it means that I think from a very abstract, nothing has changed, right? You have to sell constantly, you have to hustle, you have to pivot, you have to change. Nothing changed, and that's the thing that I think was the same when we started versus now in Switzerland as well. The thing that was different, I think, in the 90s when we started in 93, 94, is that there's the complete absence of any venture capital or any sort of financing of your.
Well, if the concept was absent, right?
Yeah, there was. I think in the US the concept existed, but it's like nobody would invest in a small Swiss company at the time. But I think now the investment community around venture capital has become more accessible, I would say, in Sweden. So that's in my mind that has pros and cons, right? On the one hand, if you have a relationship with an investor and they own a significant portion of your company, that may give you some other headaches. You may lose some control, and so it's a double-edged sword. But for us, it wasn't available, so we didn't have to choose, right? It wasn't there. So the only way to grow was to grow out of your own cash flow. Obviously, the technology landscape has massively changed. I mean, it's not even, can't even compare, right? The internet is omnipresent, cloud, mobile, AI. It's a completely different playing field. And I think the stakes got higher just because companies are so big now. There's so much relying every day on the infrastructure that high-tech companies provide that there's more at stake. I don't think if we start now and with the same approach that we had back then, I think it would be borderline impossible.
Okay, so there's one person in the room here. Unfortunately, you can't see him. I would like to ask Luc Haldiman, because I think you know Luc, right? Maybe you come up here.
I do.
Because these two guys actually, back in the 90s, were the big competitors. So you had on the one side Optree doing content management systems, and then you had Day Software, right? Bidul actually was before called, and then it became Day Software. So maybe Luc would like to chat a little bit with you, or have a question, please.
Sure. Maybe Luc, before you have the question, maybe a little bit of a funny tidbit. We obviously followed in your footsteps by moving our offices, I think, right, into where your offices were, right?
I saw you're now in the Peter Merian house in Basel,
exactly.
where we have been shortly before we sold the company, right? Yeah. No, it's good. It's good.
You were 15 years ahead of us or something.
Yeah, right. Yeah. We're always trying to catch up with you guys, so I think we have something in common there. So yes, it's great to talk to you. I haven't seen you for quite some time now. It's good to catch up here in front of a lot of people. Unfortunately, you cannot see. I should hold a mirror or make some photo and show you. Maybe if that's safe, if you don't get sick with turning around.
Very nice.
There's quite some audience here. So Basel has tech.
Very good.
Yeah, so I very much remember the time, obviously, we were head to head, but also we always had a good understanding and a good relationship together. Obviously fighting for the same clients to a certain extent. But maybe just talking about it, I mean, you've been in Salt Lake City now for, it's 13 years, right? You pretty much moved right away to Salt Lake City. After they was acquired by Adobe.
I actually stayed in Switzerland for 3 years before I left. And the interesting thing, people ask me first of all why I moved to the US and why I moved to Utah, and especially Adobe's center of gravity is in Silicon Valley, is in San Jose, so it had been much more natural for me to move to our headquarters, and also at the time also shook his head slightly when we heard that I wanted to move to Utah. But my real motivation was that I was usually the guy on the phone while there's 10 people around at a table in meeting rooms in Utah. And like eventually I said, like, can I convince all of them to move to Switzerland, or I moved to Utah, but I don't want to be on the phone at 10 p.m. anymore. And those were the days pre-COVID where nobody had any idea of phone or video etiquette, or video didn't even exist. You're just like literally, you can't get a word in, right? You're just like, this is 10 people having a conversation and you're listening. It's the only thing. And so I said, if I don't want to be up late and I want to contribute, I'll move here first. I knew that if I would have moved to the Bay Area, I would never have gotten back to Utah, but I'm still stuck here 10 years later, and it's nice. It's very similar to Switzerland. It's snowy. I don't know if you can see it outside. It's a little bit of the snow on the ground. It's mountains. It's very backwards conservative, just like Switzerland. So it's okay.
So coming from times where, it's 30 years back pretty much when we started our companies. If you look now, I mean, are you invested into tech companies today?
I am, yeah. There is, I always balance my investments between public and private companies, and I started investing initially a lot in private tech companies, and then I realized that I have enough tech in my life to not be invested in private tech companies anymore. So I invested in non-tech private companies going forward because it seemed a little bit more interesting. It's like, for me, the startup is either you're in it or you see someone else doing things that you probably don't agree with your experience, and then it gets messy. And so it's like, successfully all my high-tech private investments were sold off, and I'll keep it that way. But I'm still very invested in tech for sure.
Okay, and what would you suggest, like looking now, obviously there are some public companies and tech is growing beyond, and it's continuing to grow. Obviously we had some adjustments in the market, but if you look at tech, the trajectory is definitely still going up, and we'll probably get, I mean, with the latest developments of generative AI and stuff, there is so much that people are starting to realize. If we look 1 year back, obviously, a lot of people didn't realize what you can do with AI, and with now with ChatGPT and generative AI. People are starting to realize what we have unleashed with technologies like that. But if you would now suggest what to do in tech, or where to invest, what's something that you want to give to the people here in the room? If you can think of something, where should they look? Where should they put their energy in? Where should they maybe put their money in? Or where should they maybe, on the opposite, not put their money in? What's your take?
So I'll stay very clear of giving any investment advice to anyone. I could live with myself giving some bad advice here. But I can tell you how I look at the high tech world a little bit, and also as it relates to startups in general. So I think if we look at a couple of, I think we have like three, and maybe I'm doing this wrong, so bear with me for a little bit, but I think of like we had like kind of three big revolutions that I think in my experience. I mean, the internet is like forget it, that happened, right? That we're done there. But then if you think of mobile, cloud, and sort of the AI machine learning, those are like three humongous shifts in just like how things operate and how things come together. And I think with mobile there was an opportunity for new big companies to get started, right? If you think of the Ubers of the world, they came out of nowhere, had an app, got really popular, and obviously operations are hard and all of that good. If you think of cloud and AI, then I think from an infrastructure standpoint, both of them are extremely capital intensive, right? You need a lot of money to build data centers. You need a lot of money to train these large language models. If we take AI to Gen AI, it's a hard problem. But I think what they do is they provide a new level of infrastructure on top of which startups can specialize, can do development quicker, can get to value for their customers quicker. So I guess what I'm saying is it would probably be more if you think of reasonably small companies that I think can be successful. It's more in the sort of application higher up the stack conversation than the infrastructure piece. So I think with with how important and how big the infrastructure has become, be it on the AI side or on the cloud side, it's just such a big money game that you need billions to even get started.
All right, so standing on the shoulders of giants and do the low lift, high gain with the existing technology, right? That's something take away with that. All right, so thank you very much for the conversation. So next time you're in Basel, be sure to let me know so we can also meet face to face. All right, it was a pleasure. Take care.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you. Also from my side, David. And have fun with your non-tech investments. And see you next time you're around, right? In Basel. Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.